Hello and welcome to Key Digital Compass Control C3 After Viewing. We're going to quickly go over everything you need to do to submit and gain your C3 certification. First thing we're going to do is summarize the C3 exercises that are used in a complete and working installation. We'll go over everything you need to see everything you've learned from the C3 course and applying it into a working project. And this is actually a template that we've used many a times here at Key Digital for working systems. So we'll go over that here in just a moment. And then after that, we're going to show you the steps. We'll go over all the steps that will be necessary for you to gain your C3 certification. Okay, so first thing we'll do, jump into Compass Navigator, where we actually have our completed project here that uses only the techniques learned and taught in the C3 certification here. So we'll select our iPad, and before going through all of our tree and looking at each page and these sorts of things here, what we will first do is enter Emulator Mode by pressing Control E. So we're right now in a project that was created using all of the techniques of the C3 template building process, and we're going to quickly navigate through this, and then we'll show you what all goes into building a project like this. What are all the C3 template building methods that are used, and where are they applied to make this working project? So we click on the iPad here to see it, and you can see actually we have a number of pages. Main page is our main page layer. Then we have zone selector on the second layer, and then 3 layers fighting for the same space on our third layer. Remember, 3 layers are possible with essentially an unlimited amount of depths that can be utilized to view many things at once, of course. So if we look at those main, device, and control layer, okay, bottom, middle, and top. And again, because there's a transparency to just about everything, you're usually going to be able to, or you should pretty much always be able to see what's on the bottom layer, even with things on it, on top of it, or on the iPad. So let's go ahead here and enter our emulator mode so we could begin navigating this project in emulator here, and so I will enter emulator, pressing Control E, and this is a 2-zone project. Certainly these principles could be applied to making a larger project as well. This is a 2-zone project that basically you will see here on the bottom third of the screen. You will see this alter. This will change from one page to another as I move from zone to zone. This list, in other words, this zone selector list, if it is in position 1, it's going to call forward our home theater zone here, or the sharp denim vignette that we have here that was, it's really for a retail or showroom type layout, okay? And as we move the list here, this is a list, this zone selector list, we move this list to the second position, you will see the source and display control panels adjust accordingly here. So as we move from one zone to the other, you can see it actually makes a page jump there. And so within each of these zones, we have our source selection. There is a 4x4 HDMI matrix, KD-4x4, as you can see in the System Designer tree. And so each of these 2 zones actually has a combination of matrix sources and local sources that are connected. In this Samsung vignette of the retail environment, actually you have the Matrix Blu-ray player and the DirecTV as your matrix feeds, and then one local Blu-ray player. Okay, so basically as we press these buttons here, it's not only going to issue the switching command. Here we switch on the matrix, here we switch on the matrix, also here we're switching on the television itself. Okay, or if we'd like to control the television itself, we can go ahead and press the Samsung button here to pull up a rather simplified control panel for that television. There is a multi-zone audio product in this zone here, the Samsung vignette zone. Okay, we also not only have video and audio, we also have lighting control in this system. That we have a page jump on the left navigation panel. Also, there is one also located. This lighting control is more for that sharp vignette area, and so and then in vignette area, and so there's also an option to jump in this lighting control from there. And it was just 2 dimmers, where we had scenes. Okay, 4 scenes that as we press these buttons, it actually does reflect on the bulbs themselves. And as a reminder, when you press these buttons in emulator modes, we actually are attempting to send commands. So if it is not connected to the MC2500, then you do get that failure notice. So these bulbs is definitely something that we went over together during the C3 course. There we go, and we could even use it as the slider here. There we are. Okay, we could jump back into the main page, which actually, let's see here. Here's the look at jumping in the lighting from the this is the home theater control panel of source and display. We have the 3 scenes there. We're using the corner button to jump into the expanded view of the lighting once again. Okay, so all in all, it is a rather simple system, and we will now exit emulator mode just by clicking somewhere in our tree here in order to actually go through what all is in this project and how each of these jumps and functionalities, logic, if you will, how all of that is implemented. Okay, so we could actually see, we'll start on the left-hand side here in our system designer. We could see all of the components, all the devices we're controlling in this project. We have the project name, C3 completed project. We have 2 IP controllable devices, our Sharp 80-inch monitor and our AVR 1913, which is a Denon AV receiver, are both IP controllable. Therefore, as you could see from our control tree of our MC2500, they're not utilizing any ports there. Okay, we have on our MC2500, we have DirecTV that is IR controllable. Our RS-232 main is not being utilized. Multifunction port 1 has been selected as RS-232 to control our KD 4x4 HDMI 4x4 matrix. Our Samsung display is controlled via IR out of multifunction port 2. Our multifunction port 3 is configured as IR, and it is controlling a Blu-ray player that is our, let's see here, who is the manufacturer? This guy, Sharp Blu-ray player, so this is at the Sharp vignette. We have our Lutron connected to multifunction port 4 via RS-232. We have, let's see here, on RS5 we actually do have some climate control from Aprilaire, a partner of ours. We don't show that. I didn't show that through the walkthrough here because in this system it is there, but this was again a working installation that this had not yet been installed on the job site. And you have your local Blu-ray player as well connected onto the multifunction ports 6 and 7, one of which being local, one of which being matrix Blu-ray player. And finally, our Rust Sound multi-zone audio system, the MCAC5, that is supplying the audio to what we called, or to the, as it's identified here in the tree as the outdoor zone. We do have this installed in a number of these retail environments, and so in some zones it is, or in some of these installations it's known as the outdoor, and other it's known as the Samsung vignette, and so it is supplying audio for that zone. And so actually, as we do our switching commands, oftentimes we're not only switching the matrix, but also, in fact, switching that Rust Sound piece. We're not utilizing any of our relays or triggers or sensors for that matter. And as we look at the controller designer now, this is really the tree here where we're able to specify what we want to look at on each page. Okay, so the main page, we'll start by collapsing a number of these things on the main page. Let's see. We actually have what looks to be a number of pop-up remotes here, and that's something that I did not show in the walkthrough, but we do have the pop-up remotes that can be added from our groups libraries. Okay, and so also on the main page we have our left navigation group. So these are really only the two items that are here on the main page. In fact, if we change our view here to only show that main page layer, we could see this a little more easily, how we could begin to really segregate between what's on each layer here. Okay, so let's deselect our device layer and our control layer. And I have my toolbars across the top here, my ribbons hidden when I'm not when I'm not utilizing them. How do you do that? You could go to this drop down arrow, and what you do is select minimize the ribbons that is here at the last option on here. Gives you a little more workspace to work to have. So on our main page, we're looking at it right now. You can only see that left navigation group, but again, as I described earlier, if it's on the main page, means you're going to be able to see this on all layers above this main page. Okay. Now the other thing we had, we know this about this left navigate group. The other thing we had though was all the pop-up remotes, and you say, well, where are they? They are all invisible, so we utilize that visibility toggle here. And so what we have is a pop-up remote, as we can see by the way they're labeled here, for the two zones, meaning the two displays in each of the system, one in each zone, and the four sources of the system. Okay, so we could actually manipulate the visibility property of one of these, and you could see that they are currently 0, invisible. We make them 1, and you could see, you'll see it pop forward here as we just check that out here temporarily. There we are. This is the remote for the sharp display. Okay, we'll return that to 0, and as we continue navigating through the project, you'll see what buttons we can press to bring those remotes forward. Let's just explore for another moment the left navigation group, where we have a few buttons in here. We have the main button. We'll press on that, and now we could begin to see the events and actions that are stored in this project. When we press this button, it moves the button to an over position, so it manipulates the graphic there. So there's up, there's down, there's over on this button, I'd imagine. Let's take a quick look. Let's expand that button so we could see all of its sub elements. There you are. Yep, up, down, and over, and text for each of those as well. And then also it jumps us to the home theater zone page. So in programming this, we assumed that home theater zone was really the main zone of this system. Okay, so that is a page jump, and we've utilized that now. And as you can tell, this button is not just a button; it's actually part of the a group here. Okay, So the left navigate group contains a button. Here's the, let's see here, video. Okay, so a divider that is like a little horizontal bar. Okay, video group. So this is a group that contains a button, and it has sub-elements as well. Just like before, a page jump, in fact, to the home theater zone. So as you have more zones to the system, I'd imagine there'd be a little more variety as to where these page jumps are going. And then we could open up the lighting group, and we'll see what surely is going to be a different page jump. Yep, page jump to the lighting page that is called lighting, or light advanced, excuse me. And you could see that right here in the controller designer, the reference to these different pages that these button presses are going to call forward as what we'd like to see through the page jump. Okay. So now we could go to our zone selector page, and you can see all the elements here. We don't see anything yet. Why is that? Well, it is not invisible. It's just that we should actually, let's see, go to the second layer here to ensure that that we are in fact seeing everything that's on this second page. So in the zone selector page, it looks like it is pretty much just as the name implies. This is everything that makes up our zone selector group. We have a list here, excuse me, zone selector list it is called. And this is just like what we learned in C3 part 3. Okay, and what we have here is some page jumps. If this list is at position number 1, we jump to the home theater zone. If this list is at position number 2, value equals 2, then we jump to this zone, this page that we've called the outdoor zone. Okay, that's what the zone has been identified as here. That's its identifying name. Okay, so we have these do-if statements that are page jumps. Okay, and those are properties of the list itself. Now, on this zone selector group, you could actually see there are also some images, left and right fader. Now, these are just some transparent images that can be placed over or outside of the central list position here, because you could actually see the beginning of that next list, because our list is actually very wide. In this case, it is wider than just the list itself, or excuse me, this graphic itself, the zone graphic itself, where we're looking at a width of 896, a height of 370. If we go to this zone 1 group, then we could see the pink here. This is actually these are actually the dimensions of each of these zone groups. Zone 1 is only 704 by 370. Okay. There is the zone frame image. So this is an example here. Excuse me. This is, here we are, zone frame image. This is an example here where we took the frame and then we placed the photo on top of the frame, strategically, of course, and then the arrow as well. So this is a fully assembled zone group graphic. The arrow, here it is. So that little downward facing arrow there that could be useful in some cases. We have text that we have added on there that we can manipulate. Okay. We have zone slider group here. Okay, this is actually a group of little indicators, if you will. Lets you know what zone you're in out of the total amount of zones. So we have 2 dots there, 2 total zones. We're in zone 1 of 2. So we use the white point image for the active zone and this grayish point image for the remaining balance of zones. We'll open up our next group here, which contains, let's see, looks like that might just be a duplication of what we had there. This is an active button. So these are in the same place. This is the white overlay of that gray. Now, I probably would have done that a different way. We have a number of images that you could use to kind of make this indicator, but I guess it's a good thing to show a number of ways to do these things. And then finally we have power buttons. And as we take a look at these buttons, power on is actually, it looks like it's not just powering on the television, for example. It's sending a IP command to the Denon AVR 1913 that is power on. Then we're waiting 0.2 seconds, that is, where we are then powering on the Sharp display. And then finally sending a power toggle command to our local Blu-ray player to ensure that it is powered on. Now, the reason for this delay there is actually there was a switch located at there's a switch located at this vignette, if you will. That so we're just sending a single cat over to that zone and then using a switch to break it out, and so keeping these commands slightly apart from each other by using this delay that was added in here with the use of this pause icon. We can now collapse zone 1 group and hop on into zone 2 group, and it's very similar. Pressing that now it will adjust what we're able to view. Things moving a little slower here once again because of the recording software I'm using. But you have the frame, you have the zone image, you have the arrow image, you have your text, you have your gray and white zone indicators, again indicating what zone you're in relevance to the total amount of zones of the system. And your power on and power off buttons, we take a look at the on here. This is going to do what? It is going to send the power on command to the Samsung Vignette television. It is sending the power on zone 2 to the Rust sound, and we can also send to the it looks like this is just an empty command that perhaps was removed, but the Samsung local Blu-ray player, we could send the power on command, for example, or any command for that matter, if you wanted to automatically turn it on, or even to say Samsung Vignette should not only be powered on, but then maybe 8 seconds later or so send an input switching command. Generally about 8 seconds is the amount of time you want to wait if you're issuing 2 commands to a display right after the boot up. Okay, and let's see here, turn off button, just quickly looking at its events and actions, probably much of the same here. We're powering off the television and we're powering off the zone through our Rust Sound audio piece. So this is one page, and now we have on our third layer, okay, let's go ahead, and I showed you going to the view before. Now we could actually, I'll show you something a little bit different, which is just down here at the bottom. If you'd like to see your page layer, you can select it down here, and now we begin to see what we have. So let's start off in this home theater zone, where we have, let's minimize a few of these things. Okay, we have 3 groups. We have the display group, so this is whatever device we'd like to control. Okay, you have your source select group, and we have our right navigation. So actually the right navigation is stored on this third layer, because there's a different right navigation that's controlling the volume of the Denon when you're in zone A, for example, and then a different right navigation that has the volume control for the Rust sound when you're in zone B. So that's why it is on the third layer. And so we take a look here in our display group, and it looks like we actually have a list in here. Okay, so basically as I press any of these buttons in my source select group, it's going to call forward a certain list position for us to view. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different list positions in this group. And we only have 5 buttons here, so why the 6? Well, again, we do have one that is here that is the climate control group. Okay, and that climate control group, actually, we select it, we don't see it. Why is that? Because actually, if I right-click that group, we have made that list position invisible. So you could see here it is invisible. We could also see in the properties on the right-hand side it's invisible. When you make a list position invisible, what does that do? It actually just hops from, say, if this is list position 3, which it is, it hops from 2 to 4 as you navigate through your list, or from 4 to 2 if you're navigating from right to left instead of left to right. And that can be very useful. You might have done a lot of programming in your system, especially if you're building systems that will go into in future in some of the next training courses where you're using variables and macros and these sorts of things. Having a list position that perhaps maybe the customer says, yes, we're going to do audio in this zone, we're doing audio in this zone, we're doing audio in this zone, and then finally they say, oh, we're not doing audio in this zone. Well, if you don't want that to mess up your macros, your variables, or even just your page jumps, it could be very, very beneficial to just make that list position invisible versus completely removing it, because who knows, maybe in the future they are going to in fact put audio in that zone as well. So there's a few benefits there. So if we start by looking here at the sharp display group, so this is obviously called visible, becomes visible when we press the sharp button. We'll expand this group and we can see that it's probably going to be pretty, or it is going to be pretty abbreviated here. We have some images. We have the a full gray image, and then a light gray image on top of it that kind of provides some definition between the label, if you will, of that zone and then the contents of that panel, I should say, not zone, that control panel. You have your text here. We have a button group for this display, so this was one that we created, this button group versus not having a button that had that television on it that perhaps provided the up, the down, and the over positions that we're looking for. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, so we have our button. It was a blank button, in fact. We have our image to make up that button group. And we have the text. And the button itself, in fact, has button up, button down, and button over positions. Let's see how it looks in the button over position. There we go, that nice blue backlighting. And it looks like actually something kind of funky here, so excuse us for having it this way, but it looks like our mute button is within that group, which probably was not something intentional. It probably just moved or was dragged into that group accidentally. I could, well, I don't know if I want to open up a can of worms here. Let's see here. I could move it outside of that group though, perhaps, just dragging it somewhere up here. That looks like a good position for it. Voila. Okay. So now we have the mute button, the display button, the on and the off buttons. And if we take a look at those power buttons, take a look quickly here at the events and actions stored on them. Looks like it is a disable power save to the sharp. So this is something that many of you guys who are working with the sharp displays might be familiar with. There is an efficiency mode there that that we disable when you're doing IP control, because it allows you to control it via IP, but then once you turn off the television, it doesn't want to let you turn it back on via IP. So that's just a functionality of that power saving mode, and but it's something that typically we've found to be unsupportive of what we are trying to do in our systems here. On button, as you'd imagine, just sends the power on command to that sharp. The mute button, promise I won't walk through every button for you guys. The on button also just sends the power on command to that sharp. Okay, so that's one of these control groups. What else do we have here? We have our lighting control group that is very simplified. Just our scenes, all on, all off, and break, they're called here, that we have access to. We also have this corner button that is, you could view all these corner buttons in the buttons library under the tab appropriately named corner. And we look at the event in action of there, and that is going to be a page jump to the advanced lighting page, that expanded lighting page. Okay, we look at some of these zones, for example, or these scenes, and you can see actually how these are programmed is the variable of the dimmer 1, dimmer 2, dimmer 3, dimmer 4, okay? Actually, in some jobs, we only have 2 dimmers, and in others, we have 4 dimmers. And so instead of actually calling the scene command that was programmed in the Lutron system, instead we're just, because it was rather simple, just 2 dimmers in this job or 4 dimmers in the other jobs, we're just calling to those dimmers to manipulate the variable, much like we did in C3 Part 4, where we adjusted the variable. Therefore, the variable we'll explore here has the RS-232 commands and also manipulates the graphical user interface, the GUI property of those bulbs. Okay, so we take a look at these different scenes. We have the movie scene. It looks like that one. All on, break. Let's see, we have all off. Okay, movie is all off. So again, this being installed in a few different places. Sometimes they refer to the scenes as something a little different. And then the break looks like in a 4 dimmer installation, you have 2 of which at 75%, and 2 of those dimmers at 25%. So that's one way to do your scenes. Looking at the Samsung 2, so this is going to be our local, our matrix Blu-ray. Obviously, there's going to be more buttons within here. Okay, let's see. So we have the graphic, we have the text, and then it looks like all of the buttons contained within there actually are within their own group, and that makes it very easy. You just make your own custom group. You could drop it in, whether it be the Matrix Blu-ray, or maybe we created it and then added it to our library, and then when we're in the local Blu-ray, you just paste it in there and link it to the device that is the local Blu-ray on that one. So you have your play, your pause buttons, your typical buttons. We can look just real quick at one set of the events and actions there. When we hit pause, what takes place, when we hit play, what takes place is, of course, send the play command to Samsung number 2. Okay. We have the directional keypad and all your typical Blu-ray control buttons. And then we also have outside of that group, in fact, so let me minimize that group, we have the silver remote button. Now this is the icon that we press that allows us to call forward and make visible its respective pop-up remote. And you know, they're not manual, or they're not mandatory, of course, these pop-up remotes. Some guys like them, some guys don't. Some clients like them. In fact, we find that most clients like them, and that's why we have them. But what is it doing? It is, in fact, bringing forward and making visible our remote for source 2. So this that was the title given to this remote to control the Matrix Blu-ray. And it also looks like it is making visible quarter display group for the outdoor zone. So I'm not sure exactly, I can't recall exactly what that is, but it's another visibility toggle that is in there. And if we actually just real quick here, enter our emulator, we could find out exactly what those visibility toggles are. So we press the remote. Things moving just a little bit slower here again. There we are. We could see that it took the button press now. Things move a little slower with this video recording software. There we are. It moves it forward. And in that pop-up remote, we have this blue X in the top left corner that kind of lets us know, let's get rid of that pop-up remote now. We've done everything we need to press here. We've pressed everything we need to press. We have events and actions stored in this remote. So this is actually a pretty cool trick where you just put a group within a group if you'd like it to, if you think that there's something that really not too unique there that's pretty versatile that you're going to use in many different positions. Save that group yourself and have it kind of within the same group where you really where there's a few unique things, a few things that aren't so unique. You don't have to save a group for every instance. Instead, just have the group of the things that are not so unique and just drop that right into to the group that you'd like it to fit within. And for example, here, that was for a Blu-ray player. For example, you'd like it to match the width, I'd imagine, of the group that you're going to fit that within, or at least just say be containable within there. So now we could look at our DirecTV group. Now this is actually an interesting group here because you see we have not a whole lot of workspace, not a whole lot of space to work within. So you have to make an abbreviated amount of or an abbreviated amount of buttons available. Of course, you do also have the option of using that pop-up remote like we have utilized here. But first, before we explore that pop-up remote, let's show you the other method we have done here to really provide enough buttons for your typical cable box user, satellite box user, channel surfer to really have full functionality of their DirecTV DVR type set-top box. Okay, so actually within the list that is our DirecTV, we have a group that contains a list. So we have a list that contains groups, as they must be a group. Within that group, you have another group which contains the list. Okay? And now as I select the list, you could see its dimensions, which again, small enough to be contained within the larger group, if you will. And this group actually has 4 positions. And position 1 that we could actually see right now is labeled core buttons. It's your primary buttons. It's a home page of sorts, if you will. Let's minimize position 2 real quick and jump back into position 1 actually, so we could describe that to you. So looking at the core buttons group, why do we call it a home page? Well, just look at the buttons that are on there, and you could see these are the ones that are really more of your navigation as you want to jump around from page to page of these other group positions. You not only have the directional arrows, which you can see are a little more consolidated, a little more compacted, I should say, versus the previous directional arrows that we put together in our previous exercises. But you have a menu button, okay? That surely just pulls up the menu of the DirecTV, so it actually issues the IR command for the menu for this set-top box. Guide, info, also are IR commands. Exit is also an IR command. But when we look here, we have, so let's see here, for example, exit. Here's our exit button. Select that, and we could see the event in action that is added on that exit. Just the IR command. But let's take a look here at DVR, for example. The DVR button, Event and Actions, actually brings you to a different list position. Okay, so in the home theater zone page, the cable satellite list, as you can see, that's the title of this list that we have here, value equals 3. So that's going to jump us to page 3. Now, video on demand also does the same thing because in video on demand and in DVR, what are you doing? You're typically using the play button, the pause button, fast forward, those sorts of buttons. So they're bringing you to the same list position. And the other jump, if you will, or a GUI change where we're manipulating the list is this pound button here, which actually brings us to list position number 2. If you are the channel surfer who likes to just jump into the numerical keypad, and maybe you're just your typical in traditional channel up, channel down, page up, page down type buttons. Okay, and finally the last page jump or GUI change is stored on our favorite channel button here, where yes, some set-top boxes do have an IR command that is favorites. Instead, we have programmed in list position number 4 some favorite channels. Okay, so we'll take a look at those as we continue the tour through this list. So second position, we just saw the first position. The second position is the pound buttons here, so the number buttons once again. So we go ahead and select that, and we can see what all is contained within this group. You have 0 through 9. You have your guide button to pull up that the listings panel. You have your exit, and you have your home. In the home, actually, again, you have to work with a minimal amount of space here. The home actually is your way of returning to those core buttons page. Now, if you had a little more room, you could probably have those GUI buttons, the home, the numbers, the DVR, video on demand, and your favorite channels. You could actually have those located on every one of these list positions if you'd like, instead of going to the home and then jumping back into another. In this case, we really didn't have a lot of space to work with, so this is a way to return you back to that familiar home core buttons page. Okay. Taking a look at our third position, it is the DVR button. So again, the third position is was accessed by selecting either the video on demand button or the DVR button. And so what buttons are in here? You do have your page up, page minus. I guess that's for when you're on the video on demand panel or navigation of the set-top box, cable satellite box. When you're going through all the pages there, you have, let's see here, the home button listed in there, but also guide, info, and exit. All the buttons that you use while in that video on demand, searching through the video on demand, or searching through your stored programs on your video recorder, on your DVR. And it has, again, that home that takes you back to list position number 1. And finally, we have our favorites list position, group, if you will. And how we did this in just a fairly minimal amount of space. You have 3 channel icons where we have the icons located in the image library, and we did in fact make buttons out of them. So if we look at the button, for example, for CNN, what events and actions there is going to be of interest to us, but also the properties of the button itself. So let's take a look at those, and we can see that the CNN events and actions, it actually just has it's channel 202, so you have the IR send number 2 to DirecTV, delay of 0.05 seconds, so it's something you'll want to test and make sure that's working. Okay, it worked fine in our case. Then 0 second delay, and then finally ending it with the third 0. And so that's how it works for all of those buttons. And then on your button up, we were interested in the properties of that button, because you could take any button and change the way it looks simply by, in the properties here, using your desired image. Okay, but what's actually important here, not only choosing the image, but actually if you want to create a button out of images, you should actually kind of give it the appearance that you're pushing it down, correct? So we could see the XY position here. The button is 80, 74. If we look in the, say, put it relative to the top left corner, it looks like it is over slightly at the 5 on the x-axis, but the height was nice and full, so it's at 0 position. And the image is 80 by 74. We look in the down position, and as I select it, you could actually see it change here. The graphic, it's much smaller, 71 by 53. Okay, and so I forget the dimensions we had applied to the up position, but what you do is you just try to center it. Okay, so say if you reduced it by 10%, you're going to take 5% off of each side, left, right, top, and center, for example, if you reduced its width and height by 10%. Okay, so here's how it looks in the down position, much smaller than how it looks in the up position. And then once again, we have that home button there that allows you to jump back into the core buttons group that we had. Okay, so let's minimize our DirecTV group and take a look finally at our Sharp group here. And the Sharp group is once again an abbreviated view of or an abbreviated control panel. Oh, I'm sorry, this is a Sharp Blu-ray player, not the Sharp display. We already saw the Sharp display. So this is a Blu-ray player that uses, once again, that DVD core buttons group that we had navigated through previously. Has a pop-up remote. The only thing different really is just the text here says local Blu-ray player versus Matrix Blu-ray player. Okay, so this is our list and group that we've called the display group. So this is the really the control panel for the display, for the sources, for the lighting as well. And now we can go ahead and take a look at our source select group, which just contains, as you can see here, a number of buttons. And we have here, similar to what we did with our DVD control panel, for example, you have a few elements, and then you have a group within the group. So in this group within the group contains all of those buttons. So it is called the source select group. And here's all of our buttons. Now, just as we had taught you before, these are actually button groups, if you will. Okay, so they're customized buttons where you have just the empty button, you have the image on top of that empty button, and the text on top of the empty button as well. And as we expand here, you could actually see that you have the up, down, and over sub-elements to that button. Okay, up, down, and over, there they are. And we can take a look at the events and actions that are on this button. Three things, okay? We have the quarter control list value equals 1, so that was our list that dictated what position, whatever position is active is what we see over here on this side panel here where it currently says Matrix Blu-ray, okay? So that was the name of our list there. In fact, you could see it in our page designer tree, quarter control list. There it is. We have, let me skip to the third line here, which is basically that button it goes to the over position when you press it down, source blank button 2, and that is the name of the button we're looking at here. And then finally we do have a macro that is reset source. Now it's called Mac_reset source, and we'll show you these macros. Now we didn't really do much by way of macro, but we essentially created a macro on each of our buttons in our previous exercise where we had reset all of the buttons to be back in the up position, correct? And so in this macro, that's actually what is being done. Now, when would you use a macro here like we had used in this project versus putting it on each button is when you have a number of buttons and you'd hate to repeat the same action again. So you could just call to a macro, create the thing once, and then moving forward, just call to that macro here with that link. We did link in our exercises for C3. We did add the link to other elements event actions though, didn't we? We linked to button down, which essentially
had the macro contained in it of resetting all the buttons to the up position. Okay, and so all of these buttons actually contain similar properties, except for some of them, as we just expand them all, some of them also will contain RS-232 commands. So that sharp panel was just a means of opening up the control group to, there was an abbreviated control of our sharp display. Here, what we're looking at is the, let's see here, Blu-ray 2, for example, button group. This is, in fact, our Blu-ray player that is our matrix Blu-ray. So we actually can see here, not only are we moving the list position, but we're also sending the switching command to the KD 4x4 that is to select input 2. We are also ensuring that our AV receiver that is part of the system, so actually the matrix feeds the AV receiver, is switching to its appropriate input. This is the matrix feed was input number 2. We're linking to that macro that reset all these other buttons into the up position, and we are putting this button itself in the over position. So you could have done it as this element equals over, or in this case we did go through and pinpoint what element we're controlling, which is this source underscore blank underscore button 4. Okay, so there's an example of the RS-232 command. When we go to that local Blu-ray, the events and actions also have some commands. Let's see here. So this was a local Blu-ray. Oh, sorry, this is our DirecTV. That one was not local. Here we go. Local Blu-ray. The importance of labeling things appropriately. Again, we have used this template many a times in these retail applications, and so as such, we also are sometimes certain gear is used in certain installations where not in the others. So here we look at the local Blu-ray though, and what does it do? Well, we do have the list move that it calls to. We do tell the AV receiver to move to input 1 now, so that's obviously where our local Blu-ray is plugged into the Denon AV receiver. We do link to the macro that is resetting the rest of these buttons, and we are also making this button appear to be in that over active position, if you will. So let's go ahead and jump into our emulator and just see these buttons firsthand. Now remember, again, all of them except for, well, 3 out of the 5 contain RS-232 commands, IP commands, etc. So in some cases we will have that error message come up that says it wasn't able to execute the command. So we press the sharp button, for example. We'll start with that one. It becomes over. The sharp control panel comes up. We press the local Blu-ray player button. This actually is one command that features a number of IR, RS-232 IP commands rather, not IR. So we press this, and it's happening again slowly with the video recording software, but sometimes it serves as a benefit to see things a little more slowly the first few times. So what happened? This became over. The rest of the buttons all reset to that up position, and really the sharp was the only one it affected. And now we have the control panel come up there, and I'd imagine shortly we'll also be receiving our error message. Okay, here it is, just heard it. Let's see if there's any kind of delay here with this software that's recording the video. Should be coming up any minute now, but you could see, there it is. You could see all of those things we discussed in action there as we are in emulator mode. And last but not least, on this home theater zone page, we have the right navigation group that contains power on, power off, volume plus, volume minus buttons. So we could actually see here what we have. On the power on, is it a whole vignette power on command, or is it just the device? It is in fact just the device, the Denon AV receiver, AVR 1913. So power off is the same thing. We have some text here that is where we have this, let's see, the text of the volume. Okay, so for the Denon text we have the group here. Now important to know we had to do this as a group because actually we do not have a means yet of stacking letters vertically, only horizontally. So each of the letters is actually its own text box that was added. D, E, N, O, N, right? So we have that there. And then our volume plus and volume minus simply contains the volume ramping commands, if you will, of the Denon AV receiver. Now, we could also do some sliders in here and that sort of thing, and I do believe we had that in the Rust sound, if I'm not mistaken. We'll take a look at that in a moment. And we have not only the volume up command, but also a repeat. So if you press and hold this, it will continue to increase the volume for you. Okay. So let's go ahead and jump into that outdoor zone. Collapse a few of these things here so we can see what all is within here before we decide to jump into things. Now we have the display group, and this is very similar to what we saw before, so we won't walk through everything, but actually this control list is actually just 4 positions, because you have 4 call buttons here to visibility call master buttons to tell you which of the 4 positions you'd like to see. Okay, so we have the DirecTV. Now you know that within the DirecTV group, for example, there is a vertical list. So again, another situation of having a list within a list. You must have groups. You must have them contained within groups, but you could have a list within a list as long as one is horizontal and one is vertical. Okay, so here's our cable satellite list. We have position 1, that home position, if you will. Position 2 is our numbers buttons. Position 3 is that video on demand DVR buttons. And position 4 is your favorite channel buttons. Okay, so we have the list here of the Blu-ray player, which is it looks like, let's see here, Samsung 2 group says is that our local or our matrix? It is our matrix Blu-ray player, and we have here DirecTV, the display group, and then once again well, we have a redundancy in the naming here. Now that's okay in this position. Why is it okay that you have 2 things called quarter Samsung 2 group? Because really when we tell it what we want to view, whether it be the local Blu-ray player control group or the matrix Blu-ray player control group, we're not really telling it by name. We're just telling it on this list, quarter control list that's located on the outdoor zone page. We tell it we want to view position 4 or position 1, for example. Okay, and so that's why in this case there's some redundancy there that hasn't, essentially, if you're looking for the cleanest programming and easiest navigation and whatnot, I highly recommend you give everything a unique identifier. Okay, of our source list here, we know how that works. We have a group here that contains the 4 buttons. These buttons not only contain the GUI element change, where within this list we're looking at position 1, 2, 3, or 4, but also in many cases contain IR commands. For example, if we look at this local Blu-ray button, we will not only see the GUI change, but we will also see a switching command on the television itself. Shouldn't be any switching commands on the matrix though. Let's just verify that. Okay, this one. Okay, so we actually have, send the switching command to the sharp vignette display, and then we also have the RS-232 command to control our audio distribution, Rust Sound MCAC5 in fact. And then let's take a look at our other Blu-ray. So that was our local, and now let's take a look at our matrix Blu-ray. And actually here we have not only the MCAC5 switching, but also the 4x4 matrix and the display itself switching. Okay, and then so we know how all of those work. And now we could take a look at our right nav panel, and I was incorrect. There is not a slider here. Certainly could be an opportunity to utilize some sliders, but you do have the on, the off, and it looks like if we check these out, these are going to be controlling our MCAC5 via RS-232. Yes, so the power on is controlling only the rust sound, power off also controlling the rust sound, and then your rust sound text group, which again is a text box for every letter that it has to be stacked vertically there, all 8 letters, if you will. And just really a matter of lining them up appropriately on the XY axis to make sure they fall in line from top to bottom. Let's finally take a look at our lighting page. This is the expanded lighting page, where we have the consolidated lighting page as one of the list positions in the home theater or the Sharp Denon vignette room. Looks like we have the full lighting control group. That's our entire panel here. And this itself contains a list that is this light bulb list. Again, mentioned before, we have a few installations with more than 2 dimmers. So if you had, say, 3, 4, 5, 6 dimmers, if you'd like to use a list to just flick through them, you could do that. You could also make a list that was just, say, we have some examples of a single bulb that's viewable, maybe a single dimmer per zone, right? And a list that contains all 6 of the dimmers, though. And maybe on the right-hand side here, just make a nice little keypad-looking, something that looks similar to the Lutron, for example, keypad, where we have them horizontally here, make them vertically, much like you would have on the wall. Okay, so our full lighting control group. We will expand that tree, and we can see the text, the image, and the corner button, which contains a page jump into the home theater zone, moving you back there so to kind of tuck away this expanded view, if you will. You have your lighting list, and this is going to be this is a list that contains our slider groups there, just like we worked on in previous exercises, the entire group. And we could take a look at them here, where one is called dimmer L group for left, the other is called dimmer right center group for, well, RC for right center, that is. We'll expand, and we'll just do a little recap of how these are pointing to the variables before we actually move into the variables themselves. Okay, dimmer 2, let's see. And we can open up to take a look at our slider and actually see, starting with the slider, seeing how it points to our variable. So in the events and actions here, it's pointing at the variable that is called dimmer 2, saying that wherever this slider's position is going to determine the value of that variable. For example, 59%. And just as you had seen before, our on button makes the variable value equals 100. Our off button sets the variable to equal 0, and the up button and down button are going to be value add, where you have +1, and it does repeat as you press and hold that button. And in the down button has a repeat as well, and that is a -1. Okay, so now we could go ahead and jump into our variables and macros. And okay, and one more thing where you could see here, again, those scenes, how we kind of faked the scenes instead of using the actual scene commands that are possible. And it's really just a matter of preference there. I don't think that there was programming in the Lutron system that had that for this rather smallish project. And now we can take a look at our variable. Dimmer 2 variable, for example, contains the GUI change, where the variable the level of the or the value of the variable, excuse me, affects the GUI change to show the appropriate level, for example, level 59 on the bulb, and also contains the command that is the volume parameter 1 command, where if we take a look at this here, this RS-232 command, looks like there is the command volume 1, the parameter is probably the that is the device ID for that dimmer in the Lutron programming, and then you have, or the output ID I should say, and then you have parameter 2 being determined by the dimmer 2 variable, the value of that dimmer 2 variable. And finally, we can take a look at our macros, which is just, see, we have two here. They're exactly the same, except for one is called macro and the other is called mac. Why are there two there? Because you have two pages. So if we take a look at macro reset source, it looks like this is where we're resetting the outdoor zone, which only had 4 buttons, and you can see here are all on the outdoor zone page. Okay, resets all those buttons to the up position. And the other called Mac instead of macro, giving it a unique identifier. I probably would have went forward by calling it home theater reset source and outdoor home reset source, for example. So anyhow, this one resetting 6 buttons. Remember, there was a 6 button that was the climate control that was removed at one point in time for the project that we're walking through here today. So just as we had done this before, storing it on buttons on the actual page, here we have the macros page, and this macros page, and we're going to go into this more in the in future trainings, but we called it macros. We gave it a virtual icon, okay, and really there's no page jumps to it. You want to make sure this is all the way at the bottom, the macros, because otherwise you're going to have something very funky you're looking at when you upload the project if this is on the top and this is the first page you go to. So in other words, you want to make it so it's something you never see, and that's just what we have there. So you could see here actually all of the C3 exercises put together to create a working project, and actually as a cookie here, going back into gaining your C3 certification, we want you to build a sample project, a C3 exam project. Okay, so gaining your C3 certification, you will view all C3 videos, which is parts 1 through 4, and now the after viewing part that we're in right now. And then you should build and save your own C3 exam project. Now, this doesn't have to be the most elaborate thing, but I think that it's just very important that you get started with the programming. And there is no time like the now, and programming, as I once heard, is not a spectator sport. So you've done these videos, you've surely done some IntelliBuilder systems by now, and now it's time to take the next step and build your own custom templates there that you'll be able to use most successfully by kind of creating a cookie cutter for future jobs. And of course, you'll probably want to build quite a few templates throughout your time as a compass control reseller and programmer. I find the software to be very addicting because what we went over today, really there's no ends, there's no limits placed on all the options that are possible with your graphics, and that's something that many people note to us as they move over to compass control from other control systems. Just graphically speaking, the possibilities are endless. Now, so we want you to build and save that C3 exam project. And in order to gain your C3 certification, you will email training@keydigital.com to submit your completed exam project. And that could be done in one of two ways. Option A is just to zip up the project. Or option B is to send us a link to a Dropbox shared folder at training@keydigital once again. Now, keep in mind, very, very important here, for your project, you must send us in the zip or in the Dropbox
two items. As we've mentioned before, the .ksp is the actual project itself, and the .res is the resources folder, all of your images and additional libraries, etc., for that project. So it's got to contain those two items. Send it to training@keydigital.com, where we will go through and we'll open up a dialogue with you and get that thing, give that thing the once over and give it a whirl. And if that project is in fact a working project where based on all of the principles of C3, and we think you have demonstrated satisfactory knowledge of the C3 template building methods, then you will be awarded C3 certification. Please just allow up to 5 business days from when you submit it for us to give the appropriate amount of time to your exam and your project and ensure that it is in fact satisfactory. So we certainly appreciate you viewing Key Digital Compass Control C3 certification. We hope that you have found it to be a worthwhile usage of your time. And if you have any questions, you can email training@keydigital.com. We look forward to receiving your projects and going over those with you and offering all of the support we can make available to you in helping your efforts. I think the best thing to do is just view these videos that are on here, hit play, watch what we do, hit pause, do what we do. Thank you very much, folks, once again. And don't forget, you can always email training@keydigital.com for additional info, help, etc.